Hi guys, welcome to another EKO Kustoms video. Just a big thanks for buying this product, because if you're watching this I'm guessing you'd have bought one of these, one of our custom made stencils. This video is going to show you how to apply this and how to get it nice and flat and even on a gun surface such as this. So if we get started, take the surface that you want to apply the stencil to, make sure it is clean, free from any sort of dust, dirt and especially grease. What we use is a little bit of methylated spirit on a bit of cloth or a bit of towel. Just wipe the surface down. Make sure if you're doing it on top of a painted surface that the paint underneath will not come off with whatever you use to clean it. If you use a white spirit, sometimes that can actually lift up some paints, so make sure whatever you use will not take any paint off. Okay, as this is plastic, we're okay. So we're giving it a nice even coat, and then what we need to do is just remove any residue and let the rest evaporate. Okay, whilst that is evaporating, if we take a quick look at the stencil, you should get something like this. This is a small version of the 8-inch medium size one that we sell. You can't really see it, but there are lots of different cutouts on this, and you can choose any sort you want. So we can remove inside bits like that. You can randomize the pattern. So with this you will get some transfer paper as well, something that looks like this. Okay, this is reusable, so don't go throwing this away. What you can do is cut this to whatever size you need, and you can also cut your stencil to whatever size you need as well. So we have one that's that big, just for demonstration purposes. Make sure that the transfer paper is slightly bigger than what you need. Okay. Now on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of the inside bits. But similarly, you could remove all the outside framework and just use these little bits with the transfer paper. That's the beautiful thing about these stencils, you can choose whatever sort of design pattern you want within the style that you've chosen. Okay, so once you remove all of these, it'll be a lot easier to see what we're doing. Okay, and for the purpose of this as well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the outside as well, so you can see exactly what we're going to use as a stencil. There we go. Okay, so that's going to be our stencil that we're going to use. Transfer paper is just big enough. Peel the backing off the transfer paper. You can get a corner. Now this transfer paper has got a sort of medium tackiness to it, so that you can, enough to pick up the stencil, but shouldn't be too much to actually stick to what you need it to. So this is it, it's the clear film. Make sure you put sticky side down over the top of the stencil. Now we suggest putting it down at one side and sweeping it across over the stencil like that, so you don't get any air bubbles. Okay. What we recommend as well to help you smooth that out is some sort of roller. This is a decorator's roller. Just medium pressure, just push down, hopefully smooth out. Make sure you go over all the transfer area so it's nice and stuck to the transfer paper, like so. What I'm going to do is bring in where we're going to put the stencil. Okay. Very gently, and you want to peel it so you're trying to pull it off rather than roll it back. So you want to actually lift off the stencil like so. Okay. Position it where you want. We're going to choose there. Again, start from one end, like so. And with a sweeping motion, you can either use a roller or your finger or a card, some sort of credit card, bank card, just to help you smooth it down. With the roller, make sure you go over again all the area where the stencil is going to adhere. Like that. Okay. Now what you need to do, grab the corner of the stencil. Okay. And this time, instead of lifting it, you want to roll it back on itself. Now you may need something just to help the edge stay down. Like that. Okay. And you want to wiggle it in a wiggling motion. So instead of just pulling it off, you want to pull a little bit off that corner, then transverse to the other corner. Make sure that the stencil sticks. Once you get it started, it becomes a lot easier. This has got to be the hardest part of this. So this is where the results count. So take your time with it. Make sure you get it nice and even. If necessary, if you lift up a bit like I've just done there, you can put it back down, go back over it, make sure it's firmly down, and then start again, making sure that it doesn't lift. It also very much depends on the surface you're planning on putting this on as well. If it's a dead smooth glossy surface, you will get much better adhesion from the stencil. If it is a rough bumpy surface like this, then you have to take a little bit more time about how the stencil sticks. Okay, we'll see that hasn't stuck down as well. So what we can do is peel it from the other direction. There we go. Just starting to lift a little bit there, but it's not a problem. Okay. And then what you can do is go over with your roller very gently, make sure it's all pressed down. And there you go. One stencil adhered, and then you can paint, spray paint, or with a brush if you've got skills. And obviously when you lift this up, you just need a scalpel blade or something underneath. Once you remove this, the area underneath will remain the colour of that. Okay, the other thing you can do with these stencils, on some patterns, mostly it's cryptex style, you'll see there are 3 different areas. So you've got, if I just remove this one, you've got the intermediate section here, which is like a ring. If I remove that, okay, you've got, and then you've got the inside bit, which is there. Okay. And then, as you've just seen, you've got the framework around the outside. So this time, instead of using the framework, what we're going to use is we're going to use the tiling on the inside. And just to mix it up a bit, we're going to use this section here. I want the ring to go down on this side, and I want the inside bit to be used on that, so I'm going to remove the ring, and we'll use the ring on this one, so remove the inside bit and the inside bit on this one. Use the ring. And that one, we've got no choice but to remove it. Actually, we'll leave that one behind. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just trim this to roughly the sort of size that I want. Don't be alarmed, guys, if your stencil occasionally comes with the odd spot missing. Okay, that's down to how the cutter cuts it. Sometimes they come off and they're not always the same, but it's camouflage. It's not supposed to be regular and even, so it will hopefully add to the effect. Okay, so this is the bit we're going to use. Okay, so as you can see there, this size isn't quite big enough, so I've got some here that we're going to use. And what we need to do now is remove this outer ring. The other way, if you don't like using the transfer paper, is you can just pull it off by hand if you choose, and lay it over the area you want. So for instance, you could take that and droop it over the area that you want if you want a very random or twisted style. So it'll make sure that you stretch it so that all the areas are down, and then you can spray over the top of that. Okay, so this is the pattern we're going to be using. Get rid of all the outside as well. It never wants to come off when you need it to. Okay, that's what we're going to use. Get rid of that one as well. Okay, so take our transfer paper again. Make sure the surface that you're going to apply this to is wiped down. It's very important to get rid of any grease, any fingerprint marks, anything like that where you've had to touch it afterwards. Wear a set of gloves if necessary. Sometimes this can be a bit tricky, as you can see. There we go, that's the edge. Okay. So lay that over the top, starting at one side, working our way across with the roller. And say you want very light pressure, otherwise it's a lot harder to get off at the other end. Make sure most of the air bubbles are out so it's nice and even. And then with a lifting motion, peel this away from the backing. There we go. Bring in our stock again, and we're going to place that. Let's follow the contours of the stock, so we'll have it going that way. Okay, again, start at one end and work your way along the stencil. Make sure it's evenly down, there's no air bubbles. Okay, so that's nice and flat. Go over the stencil, making sure it's properly stuck down. And then again, with a peeling motion rather than a lifting motion, make sure you start it off so that it sticks. Best way to do this is actually put the transfer paper back on itself and just use the stickiness with your thumb or finger just to help roll it off, whilst with the other hand make sure that you keep it down on your material, again with a rocking motion. This is the bit that takes the time, but once you get your stencil sorted, you can then achieve a nice finish on whatever you're spray painting. Sometimes these little, very fine parts of stencil like to lift off. So just be very careful with those. Yeah. Use your nail if you want to really make sure it's down, but make sure you don't tear any of the stencil or the transfer paper. This is really used for when you want a nice spacing between your separate bits of camouflage. If you wanted just say this random dot here somewhere, you could just lift that straight off the stencil with a set of tweezers or peel it off, and just put it down wherever you need it. You don't need to necessarily use the transfer paper. Transfer paper is good if you want to keep things together from one location to another. Also, when using the transfer paper, we recommend that you use it on nice flat surfaces. Like if you've got a very contoured surface, perhaps a forend with lots of rails on it, that sort of thing, perhaps it's better if you, or you may find it easier if you pull off the stencil that you want, perhaps the webbing, and just drape it over and start from one end to the other, working your way along, making sure that it's fully stuck down and there's no ruckles or anything like that. Because obviously if you get a ruckle, let's say like that there, the paint when you spray it will go underneath the stencil, which is not what you're trying to achieve. Okay. So again, that's lifted, so you just go back over it, making sure it's firmly down. All about this rolling motion, making sure you're not lifting it up and you're just peeling it back. There we go. Okay, and then just go over it, making sure that it's nice and flat, all the air bubbles are out. And when you're done with your transfer paper, just stick it roughly back on the paper, and that can be reused. So it's nice and smooth, and that will give you a very distinct camouflage pattern there. Obviously it won't be filling in underneath there or underneath any of the rings there. And then when you've sprayed it, just want to get the edge of something underneath and lift off all the bits that you need, like that, and then you should have a beautiful pattern underneath. Okay, if you've got a custom request for a stencil, something of a camouflage that you want to see, or you want bespoke to your job, get in contact with myself. It's Paul at EKO Kustoms, and we should be able to get something together and make you a custom stencil bespoke to your gun. Okay, any questions, let me know via our Facebook page, search EKO Kustoms and get in touch. Otherwise guys,